How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I have a couple of items specifically that I wanted to talk about that I think everybody should know about because they're super useful, and honestly I was going to just write them off and not bother with them, but since seeing what they actually do and seeing how good they are and putting them into practice, I think everybody definitely should know about these, especially if you do PVM. They will be useful for other things as well, but PVM specifically gets a huge benefit out of this. A lot of people watching will know full well what these are, but just in enough chance that there's quite a lot of people that don't. The items that we are going to be talking about is the Penance Powder and the Item Protection Powder. There are other powders that have been added to the game with Het's Oasis as well. However, these two stand out quite a lot to me as they are really good in PVM situations. Not only that, if you're interested in finding out more, the Item Protection Powder can help cut your death costs in almost half in a lot of situations. So depending on your preset, you can save almost 50% on your death costs. And I'll be showing you later on in the video how that works. So stick around if you're interested in that. Leave a like on the video if you do enjoy, and do subscribe to the channel if you are new. Anyway, let's talk about these powders. Let's find out why they're so good and why I think that everybody should definitely have an understanding of how they work, because they will be useful in a lot of situations. Okay, so because a lot of people from just hearing that beginning bit will probably have an understanding of the way they want to use these powders, and we will talk about more ways you can do it in case you are interested, but the best way that I think to use these powders, especially for PVMers, is to have a banking preset such as what you can see here. And then when you come back to the actual bank, or before you start a boss for an hour or something, all you need to do is load that preset. It loads something up like this, and you just scatter both of these ashes, both of these powders, and you just double click both of them like this. And you just double click both of them and it would put them through. However, I did have a little bit extra time on this one, but that's okay. So that would be that done, and then you can do anything else you want to do, your incense sticks or charge up anything like that. A banking preset is ridiculously useful for anyone who doesn't use one. So if you ever run out of like charge of your book, whenever you're a mid-boss fight or something, when you bank, you don't need to like come in here and look for the grimoire. You can literally just load your preset and then add a page to it, just like that. And then you can go straight back to whatever boss you were going to be doing. So banking presets are pretty useful, and I would suggest if you are going to be using these powders pretty often during PVM, just grab yourself a banking preset, chuck these on there, and it just add it to it. Honestly, it is a new addition to something I will be using a hell of a lot. So let's talk about some more ways you can use these, and then talk about the death cost and stuff. We may talk about the item protection one first, as I think that may have more interest for most people. Okay, so starting off with the powder of item protection and how this can basically make your death costs so much cheaper. It is absolutely unreal, and I am so glad they've added this to the game. It makes PVM so much less stressful for myself, and I'm sure it does for quite a lot of other people as well. First of all, don't think that this is just for people who have high death costs. If you have something like a 2 mil, 3 mil death cost, this will still be pretty damn useful for you as well, and is definitely something worth knowing, especially as in the future you will be upping those death costs as you do get gear unlocks and stuff like that. So definitely good knowledge to know about. Okay, so we're going to give an example of how it can basically reduce your death cost by a hell of a lot just by using the powder of item protection. So what we're going to do is load our bank preset here for Karapak. We'll load Karapak's preset and we'll check how much that death cost is. I currently don't have item protection on, and I do have the protection of the powder of item protection available here. It is the buff is there, but it will not be active until I turn this protect item curse on. So let's just take a look at our actual death costs for Karapak. So you can see here, it says over here at the bottom, total cost to save. If I were to die at Karapak right now or any time using this preset, it would cost me 11.2 million GP every time I die. Karapak is super punishing. I die quite a lot at Karapak. I really do. So this is really hurtful when it happens. It is just sad as hell. However, I could just use a Ring of Death, but the Reaver's Ring at Karapak is just too good when you have the Staff of Armadil. So I just prefer to not use it, and I will just hopefully not die, right? So what does the powder of protection actually make as a difference? Let's have a look. So we got 11.2 mil GP to save here. If we just activate the protect item curse, bearing in mind that we do have the powder protection available, and then we click on the death cost one more time, you'll see the death cost drops all the way down to 6.7 mil. Holy hell, we've gone from 11.1 mil down to 6.7. So as I said, it is not quite exactly 50%, but we have just saved ourselves 4.4 mil from just using one powder that lasts 30 minutes. So if you use 2 of these at the beginning of an hour, that covers your entire hour, and you make sure you have your protection on, you will always be reducing your death cost by an absolute fortune. Now, this is if you have like an 11 mil death cost, right? That's brought it down to 6.7 mil. That hurts nowhere near as much. I'm fine with that. I know I'm taking all this extra gear. I have 2 armor sets, for God's sakes. Like, I've chosen to take that, and the death cost is high. That's fine by me. I am happy with the 6.7 mil death cost. But what if I had something that wasn't quite as expensive? Okay, so this here is my AFK Vindicta preset. This is what I use when I'm AFK in Vindicta with Crypt Bloom and tier 92s and stuff. So the death cost is nowhere near as high as when I'm doing actual bosses like Kerapak or Raksha, places like that. So let's take a look at the death cost without the protect item curse on. Without that on, our death cost is only about 1.6 mil. That's not too bad, right? But just for something that sort of gives you an idea of the wealth that you would be carrying, a 1.6 mil death cost is probably relatable to a lot more of you guys than a 12 mil death cost. Like, it probably just is to more viewers watching right now. And you can see the difference that just having this powder and the item and the protect item curse on actually makes. So let's close this off, chuck that on. 1.6 mil becomes 738k. That's insane. That's a 900k saving just from using 2 powders throughout the entire hour. So if you're learning a boss and even your death costs are around about this much, like 1.6 mil, you definitely want to be using these. They're so freaking good, and they cost about 350k on the GE at the moment. So you look here, you can see that I've bought myself a nice stack of them because I'm going to be using these all the time. I will definitely be using these every single time I PVM, no matter what I'm doing. 350k each. I have stocked up on them to add them to my banking preset, and I will be using them all the time. It's a ridiculously low investment, saves you a hell of a lot of money on your death cost. So if you're like me and you die quite a lot, this is very useful to have. The powder of protection also does work in the wilderness. So if someone just happened to come along and PK me, it would still save me the extra items. So if I check at the moment and I checked what I would keep here, if I was in the wilderness, I would lose everything but these 3 items. So I would lose my legs and I would lose my boots, which means I would also lose my biting 3 as well, right? But if I activate the protection curse and then check one more time, you can see I will keep everything that I have, as I do only have 5 items. Normally, if you go in the wilderness to do anything with any sort of PVM relation or whatever, you would only bring like 1 item or 3 items as long as you're not going to skull, right? But if you want to come into the wilderness now, you can use your item protect and you can bring 5 items. However, this is important. Don't bring 5 items into the wilderness if you're not willing to lose it. Even if you are not skulled when you get into the wilderness, you can get skull tricked, you can lose stuff, you can get smited and you can lose your protect item curse and you'll run out of prayer. So this is something you need to be careful with. I suggest still only bringing 3. But if you are going to bring 5, you can use this and you can make sure that you do protect all 5 things. As you can see here, a random PK that we don't know, absolutely no idea who this is whatsoever, has turned up and they're going to PK us. We have 5 items, we have protect on, and we have the powder available. And you will see that when we get to Edgeville, I believe it will be, we will keep all 5 of our items and they are in absolutely fine condition. We can re-equip them and we can get ourselves back into the wilderness if we wanted to. This is super useful to know, super useful to have access to, and I would suggest you guys, you do use them. Save yourself costs on death costs for bossing, and if you do enter the wilderness, you can save yourself some extra items as well. As for Penance Powder, it is pretty much what it says in the tin. Taking damage will basically restore your prayer points, and of course, that can be useful in quite a few situations. If you're AFKing a boss, for example, you can use this and probably not need to use the Penance Aura. You can use the Penance Powder and a Super Prayer Renewal in most situations, and that will usually keep your prayer points at a max. Of course, this won't work everywhere. It's going to depend on which boss you are doing, how much damage you are taking from whatever you are killing. Of course, the more damage you take, the more points is going to be restored. Other uses for this, and why I use it at all bosses, is because it's going to save you the effort of making sure your prayer is up at all times. Not only that, it can also save you some inventory spaces as well. For example, if you take yourself 4 super restore potions to Zook, for example, using a penance powder before the fight on your banking preset will probably allow you to take 3, maybe 2 at a push, depending on how fast you are doing it. But you can definitely save yourself an inventory space just by using the penance powder, because you won't need to use as much prayer throughout the entire fight. As mentioned, this is a 30-minute duration effect per powder that you do use. So if you use both of them at the beginning, that is going to last the entire hour, meaning you don't have to think about it again after that, and your prayer will drop a hell of a lot less. this also solves another issue for quite a lot of people, and these quite a lot of people include me as well. More often than not, I will go to a boss and my prayer will drop because I'm not paying attention to it, or I will just be caught up in the moment and I'll forget to drink a prayer potion or a renewal. Unless I'm using spiritual prayer potions and I'm using them to make my Ripper Demon do more damage, I tend to forget to even use prayer potions. I can get through an entire next kill and then my prayer can drop on the last phase because I completely forgot to drink any after the ice prisons or throughout the entire fight. So, of course, if you have this powder active, there's a good chance that you're going to have a lot longer to not be thinking about the fact that you haven't used a prayer potion in quite a while. Basically, to simplify it, your prayer will not drop as often, it will not drop as quick, giving you more time to think about it and more chances to actually boost that prayer back up when you get a spare second between all the switches and stuff to actually pay attention to it. While the powder of item protection is sitting at around about 350k each at the moment, the powder of penance is at a nice 150k each. So I really see no reason not to use these every time I go to a boss. However, you will have to make up the decision whether you think it's worth it. But paying an extra 300k an hour, even if all you're getting is 1 or 2 more inventory spaces, in my opinion, is absolutely worth it. I would be happy to pay that. Add on the fact that you'll be using less restores or prayer potions, so that will reduce the cost of it anyway, and then also the fact that you're going to need to worry less about your prayer actually dropping during the fight. I think these are absolutely worth using every single time that you go to a boss, but like I say, you'll have to make that decision for yourself. However, the item protection ones, I'd see no reason why you wouldn't use them. Unless your death cost is less than 350k, or you are using a Ring of Death, then there's pretty much no reason not to use those powders. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video interesting. I hope you found it helpful, and hopefully it does help some of you save some death costs in the future and save a bit of money. Anyway guys, if you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you as always so much to my channel members who support the channel that bit extra each and every month. You're absolutely crazy. Your names have been on screen and I really do appreciate that. Anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next one. See you later guys.